We finish at 9. That's really getting the last drop out of your crew. People have said, oh, I worried. Can you sleep? Oh, it must be terrible. It isn't terrible. It feels like Christmas. All to get a simple shot that will be worth its weight in gold. But effectively, you are going to have that slight documentary edge with what you're doing, although hopefully the film will make look of a very expensive feature film.
By far the hardest thing about the project was the budget. I don't think that'll come as any surprise to anybody who's been involved with Man Dancin.
Norman said it was going to be low budget, and of course we all know that low budget is around £10 million or £15 million, but that's not what Norman meant by low budget. Norman meant something far, far lower than that.
However, I have to say that Norman wanted to do it for 400,000 at one point. He said, well, I know we can do it for 400, and he worked this budget out. And frankly, by the time we got down to 400, I got just a little bit antsy. And I said, no, I don't think we can make it for 400, but I think we can make it for 450.
My natural inclination every few pages was to put in things like 17 F-52 bombers scream overhead. And not because I thought they belonged in the script, but just to give him a heart attack.
It's taken an absolute commitment from everybody, all the way through the production, doesn't matter who, to make it happen and make it work.
So how many days are we now before we start filming?
Do you know, I've not even worked it out. About 3
about
weeks
3
and
weeks.
a bit. 3 weeks and a bit, and we're just really beginning to pick up. We have yet to hear about the money. But we have great faith and a lot of optimism. There's the jail. You can see Ash Wilkinson was the designer. I've worked with him before, first when I met him on a Catherine Cookson, and he took this ordinary Newcastle area and turned it into this wonderful 1830s back alley space. And I thought, he's good. And this is the bus stop.
Oh, great.
See that there?
Yes.
That's where he could be being beaten up by the two kids.
Right.
So any questions so far?
No, when do we start?
Be careful when you're seen with that camera around here, Colin. You can't just film in these locations. You have to have arrangements with sort of, they call themselves security and they wear a yellow jacket if you give them one, but they're the hard men of the area. If you want to film there, you see Donny. If you want to film there, you see Rabbi. And you do, or else maybe it doesn't work so well for you. Ash was fantastic. He looks like a cross between a walrus and an all-in wrestler, which I thought he'd be good for Govan. He won't get pushed about. So when I had to leave him in some of the worst areas I've ever come across in my life, I thought he'll still survive, and he did. There's a million choices in every film you make, and if you choose correctly early on with the locations, and we took time to do that, then an awful lot of your work is done. That isn't to say that the art department don't work their butts off. They do. I need to say probation office in some form or other, so that I need to say, but it looks right. When you're making a low-budget film and you go for locations, you look for places that are perfect for what you want and you don't have to spend a penny on. And if you find a location that is so wonderful, you may even want to change the story, because it actually can be an amazing moment in the film when it looks as if you built it all and it cost £5,000 a square inch. But in fact, it's there. And if you can adapt the story to make it look as if it was absolutely crucially essential that you were there, it's as if you built it and designed it yourself. We did try to keep the locations as close together as possible, which obviously makes sense. Travel time between locations can be a real drain. Burnt out car, very nice, could use that. That flat should be where Maria lives when he comes and beat up Des early. Yeah. So how are we going to burn the church hall down? See this box of matches? I couldn't find the right Catholic church, so I went to a Protestant church, Ibrox Parish Church, and it looked great from the outside. I found an interior Catholic church that matched it perfectly, but what was so good about the Ibrox Parish Church was that it had a made-to-measure theatre and church hall, a practical theatre, stage, curtain, everything, and had a drama group. And how about breaking the front window of a classic car?
Yes. It depends on the car. I mean, I need to speak to suppliers because it's actually getting. I mean, it'd be great just to see it go.
That is certainly a possibility.
Or put the camera inside the car, so you're only ever looking out.
I haven't thought of doing that yet because it's so much of an intimate conversation, but you could.
I mean, just to cut to that
Cut
point.
away, yes, it swings at some
So
point.
it's in there, you're looking. You're getting that shot.
Very good. Have you appeared on this yourself yet? Turn it to
I haven't yet, but I'm sure at some point.
Hi, Colin.
I have now.
What do you think of the show so far?
I think it's excellent as usual.
You've got the job.
So how hectic has it been?
I need some sleep. But it's great fun, very good fun. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. But I need some sleep. And this is what, day 4. I'm going on adrenaline, and I know Norman goes on adrenaline as well, a lot as well. He's got so much energy.
We've also been there, haven't we?
Once or twice.
Yep.
The Norman Stone experience.
Yes. Are you the art director as well as the production designer on this, or will you have an art director?
I think there is an art.
No, you both. Seriously?
Yeah.
You have an assistant. You're the lot.
All right. Yes.
We're having to find a team quickly. We've got our main members. That's good. And we've got lots of enthusiasm and heart. So we'll see what we can do.
And have you storyboarded the film?
Only in my head. I tend to do my story. You remember, Colin?
I do.
I tend to storyboard afterwards. It's so much easier. I always found that so much more gratifying. Oh yes, this morning we've heard confirmation about Mr. Cosmo, confirmation about Mr. Cranham. And before sandwiches, this lunchtime we hope to have confirmation on Alex. We've got a late green light on this. We started Monday, we filmed in 2.5 weeks. We've got a cast by Friday. The people I've got, I'm seeing, there's not masses of them, 2 afternoons full. They're the ones that can already do it. I believe they can already do it because Mariah got you in. So that's not a problem, it's just a case of knowing how things fit. I talk too much in auditions. I want a conversation rather than a court-martial. I want to get to know people and see what they are and what they're like.
The thing that I enjoyed doing most would probably have been, we've done a play called, we done Trainspotting about 3 years ago, and I played Renton.
Sometimes it's due to characteristics, but often it's to do with character. The truth of a person sounds corny, but it's sort of that.
Evening, Father. I figured the ladies might want a wee lift up the town. Public transport's a nightmare.
They're in the play. We'd like to have them.
Play? Oh, that's great. Nothing like a hobby to broaden the mind. Only, we don't want to neglect our work.
Evening, Father. Figured the ladies might want a wee lift uptown. Public transport's a nightmare.
Sometimes I hear directors that somebody comes into a room and they say, no. Well, I think that's rude and unnecessary, and you've got to find out who they are anyway. Back of my mind is always, I'm interested to know about them for another time anyway. So I may cast them for something else, even if I don't cast them there. I also think if they've dragged themselves halfway across town, sometimes halfway across the country, just to come and sit in front of you, you have a bit of a responsibility to at least treat them like human beings and let them tell you who they are. I want to feel I know them a bit more as well.
Oh, that's a relief.
Shut it! Don't worry. You can keep your slut. We're leaving.
What's the part in any film you care to name? They're doing a remake. You got the part. What would it be?
A taxi driver.
I asked them, what part would you play if ever? Because deep underneath, we all know actors go around saying, I could do that. Well, what would they really want to do? And sometimes you get the most amazingly romantic or serious or unexpected responses from that sort of a question. But I'm trying to see their heart, I guess, or their character. I'm trying to also feel that there's a sense of humour. I want to just know who they are.
There you go, so characters give you a clarity.
Listen, very good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
These are notes to help me remember later when I'm actually, when I'm talking with the casting director at the end of this and discussing who's to be doing what. I might as well put mole on left cheek, slight squint.
And there came a man out of Galilee up in the north, and the people thought they knew him. But they didn't, cause he always caught them by surprise.
Come to me, anyone who is thirsty, and I'll give you a drink.
Oh yes. The man was very popular among the common people.
You can tell when something clicks. Sometimes it can click because they get on with you, don't have to. Sometimes it clicks because they get on with the part. Sometimes you think, wow.
Double bonus point manager of Tesco's. Oh, no! This man's food and drink were different. Because this man was the Son of God.
But I thought, wow, that'll really work. That's great. And he got the part because it suddenly all clicked.
Naturally a Franco.
You tend to interview people for the most important parts first and then go down. Not that the smaller parts are any less of a challenge, sometimes they're more of one. So when I saw some very good Scottish actresses for the Elizabeth Black part and eventually thought, no, I'm going to take the opportunity, here's one character I can play English, I was still very aware of the talented other people.
It wasn't a virgin birth or an immaculate conception. I'm saying it isn't necessary for us all to believe it.
And then you think, well, would they be prepared to come in for a day or 2 days and do smaller parts? And they come along and they are good. So the rather fun scene where the lady storms out, having been refused yet again to play Mary Magdalene, she was one case in point.
God is spirit, virgin birth.
I was grateful for her coming along and doing that. She's capable of doing a lot more, obviously. And the main talking nurse in the hospital, she's a very good actress. I liked her a lot. And she did that for me, so that was good.
Sebastian and I jazzed up the script a little. You picked one of his bits.
I once asked David Putnam what the job of a producer was. He said to make sure everybody's making the same film. And at casting, you've got to have that. I don't want to find that halfway down a film, somebody's making a different film from anybody else. It's sort of a deeper version of the actor that says, of course I can ride, and then gets on the horse backwards and gallops off in all directions. That happens. You don't want that emotionally.
Probably out of the characters I've played in the past, I've played more of the wife type rather than the, yeah.
Did you have to do an audition for this?
No. I did a short called Girl in a Lay-By, and he had seen it, and he'd spoken to a few people, and he'd heard some good things about me. So he said, just come and meet me for a coffee, in Edinburgh. And so I went to meet him for a coffee, and he asked me to do it, which is amazing. I mean, it's any actor's dream to be offered a part in a film, without even auditioning.
1 week and 1 day to go. True. You may laugh.
Why do you have that like that?
But I direct with this. Ah.